So up next, we're, as you've seen throughout the week, talking about the transition RETS to Web API, and we've got MLSs who are leading the charge and doing that work already. And a couple of them who have done the work and want to talk about that process for some of you who are just maybe starting out, maybe you're midway. The technical process is important for your vendor, but there's a huge management process, communication process that the organizational side needs to be able to handle well so that the data consumers and the brokers can make that transition. So we've got a couple folks coming up to talk about their experience. One in particular, Liz Sturrock from Miami, who also happens to have an exciting new role with a venture you've all heard about, purchasing with multiple MLSs, a single vendor, and Rebecca Pearson from MRED. You can come on up and tell us about your transition to Web API.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Liz.
Hello. Is this two blondes talk about the Web API?
Yeah. We'll see how this goes.
All right, so I'll hop in and start with talking about Miami and kind of what we do there. So Miami REALTORS is the 5th largest MLS in the country. We have 55,000 members, and our members do everything from rentals in lower end markets to $50 million homes in Fisher Island and everything in between. So it would be foolish of us to assume that everybody can use the same tools to do the same job, because they all have very, very different jobs and approach their work very differently. So at Miami, we are all about choice. We have 4 tax services, 3 MLS front ends, 2 showing services, and a partridge in a pear tree. How do you guys handle it in Chicago?
So in the Chicagoland area, we're actually just slightly smaller. So we have about 48, well, actually we might be closer to 50,000 customers. And we're definitely in the pear tree with you. We're looking at choices. So we're offering as many choices as possible. However, we are only offering one choice, and that is Web API.
All right, and so here we go. Let's get into it. I don't know how you advance the slides on this thing. Is there a clicker? Use the clicker. There it is. There we go. Okay. So like all good schemes, it starts with a pyramid.
Yeah. Dun-dun-dun.
So at the basis are the vendors. They make up everything. They make everything go. And so that's where we started. How about you?
Yes, this was our approach to the transition as well. We started with the vendors. It's kind of the walk, crawl, run philosophy, and we were definitely working with the vendors, making sure that we could get them squared away before we went to the next tier.
Yeah, us too, 100%. And frankly, the vendors are more tech savvy than the brokers or the agents. They were able to find the process, break the process, and help us refine the process so we could make it easier for our members down the line. I'm going to hop in with a timeline. We started in Miami a little over 4 years ago, and we were lucky that we had our own little test bed up to the north at the Jupiter Tequesta Hobe Sound Realtors that merged into us. Due to some other vendor issues, we needed to change their API very quickly, and so moved them over to Trestle in the summer of 2017, and then also started testing moving from Matrix RETS to Trestle RETS with CoreLogic at the end of that year. We come into 2018 and 2019, Trestle becomes Bridge, and then we start doing some more testing and moving. At that point, we had probably moved 25 vendors and about 50 brokers over, and so that was really just good for us testing our communications plan and things like that.
Yeah, I'm going to just refer to Liz's timeline since mine didn't quite make it into our deck here. But I'll take you back to 2018. We started formulating a strategy as well as our communication plan. And our transition has been over the past, well, we had about a 2-year span that we had planned with that. And so in 2018, we started our communications letting people know that, and I've got Gail over here nodding her head. Thanks, Gail. Gail helped set this up for us at MRED. And so basically, we were giving everyone a full year heads up that this was coming and that they needed to start preparing for it.
Yep. We started with about a 6-month notice and then constant, 90-day, 30-day, et cetera. But you don't really know that people are listening.
True. And you definitely want to over-communicate. So we had the year heads up, the 6-month heads up, the month heads up, the week heads up, the 1-day heads up, and ultimately, until you turn their feet off, sometimes they're not going to pay attention to that heads up. Heads up out there. There are a few of you, I think, that are still working through some final transitions right now.
Who's ever tried to figure out which breakers in your house run which outlets? It's basically how it works. You start turning things off and see who yells.
Absolutely.
And then you give them another 30 days. Maybe you give them another 60 days when they tell you that they don't understand how anything works. And then you go from there. So over the course of this, we worked with Florida Realtors who were in 2018 still using FTP to move data. Got them over to RETS and then over to the web API as well. They are now fully converted. But by the end of 2019, we were basically done. We turned off RETS. We stopped deploying new RETS feeds at the end of 2018. So anybody new who came in, any partner, any vendor, any broker, any agent, we just basically said, no, we don't know how to issue those anymore. We forgot.
Yeah, so kind of similarly, we offered anyone who was getting a new feed, they were going to directly get the web API. They didn't have the option of RETS. And that's actually been pretty smooth for us. So in addition to, like I said, in 2018, we gave everyone a heads up. When their renewal came up, it helped us take a look at our calendar so that everything wasn't transitioning at once. We didn't have like a strict deadline. We slowly moved everyone through the process as their renewal came up. And yeah. I was just going to give you a couple facts here. So we transitioned between January of 2018 through today. We've had 265 vendors or so, and we have transitioned just over 9,000 feeds.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So this is where we are today. So we, because we have choice, we have Trestle and Bridge, whatever the vendor wants to use. We offer them documentation for both. So right now, today, we have 737 live feeds running through Bridge and another 135 feeds running through Trestle. What's great, they handle all of the billing. They have decent reporting. I wish it was a little bit better. Both of the vendors, I wish we had better full tracking of where the listings go. Marilyn, I think you had a great point earlier when you were talking about where things go and what you can report back. And the tech is there. I just want to see it come more into the web API so that MLSs can get a better handle on this.
Yeah, and all of our 9,000 feeds are through MLS Grid. And right now, they are the only option that we're offering through MRED, but I know that other MLS Grid providers are also giving multiple choice options.
So let's talk about the other challenges, right? The challenges aren't just the people who don't listen to us. Some of the other challenges are when we were using RETS through Matrix, when a member deactivated with us, their feed was automatically pulled. And that is a feature that we don't have today, and we certainly wish we did. So that's giving us a lot more oversight and a lot more effort on our staffing side. So we're looking how we can work with the vendors to automate that. We challenge any vendors who are doing this to offer this as a part of your service. Nobody should be getting data that they're not paying for. Whether they're not paying for your IDX feeds, if you charge for them, we don't charge our members in Miami, but certainly your vendors, they are absolutely paying as well. And if they're not paying their member dues, they should absolutely not be getting the data.
Yeah, I will say that MLS Grid, it ultimately is kind of like outsourcing your data feeds process. You're still very involved and able to approve who is coming through the pipeline. But essentially, they do all the heavy lifting. They do all of the billing. They also do the vendor communication, which I can't tell you how much work that can be, identifying who you need to talk to. I mean, not only are you just willing to turn off their data feed, but seeking who the right person is to send those emails to and who to communicate with is also a challenge that you may run into. But yeah, MLS Grid has provided a lot of transparency. There's a dashboard. They have an automated process. So I think that another key to our success is, looking at how the broker feeds in, the broker and vendor feed into this new paperless process with MLS Grid. It gives them a lot more transparency. And I was just going to mention, as far as the data feeds go, so for a broker back office feed, we have the broker, they initiate that feed request. And the IDX feed or the VAL feed is initiated by the vendor. So we have MLS Grid has a smooth, easy process in place. It was a huge key to our success.
Yeah, Bridge and Trestle both do a really nice job of doing that contract management. Agents who request feeds do need it signed off by our brokers, and so that handles that workflow for us, so we're able to go in, all those documents are e-signed. It is pretty straightforward. That's it. We're happy to take any questions on the process, the pain points, the joys.
One other thing I just wanted to mention is the compliance aspect too. I mean, I think that having the ability to know where the data is going, really understanding who's consuming your data and how much of that data is really important. So I would say that you can take advantage of this transition, and those of us that have gone before you, you can learn from what we learned, and we can, share knowledge and approach and communication plans and help you make this a success too.
Absolutely. This isn't a wheel that needs to be reinvented. My advice is absolutely have a communications plan, but don't feel like you have to live and die by it, because until you flip the switch, you're not going to get to those people who don't read emails anyway.
Oh, thank you. Okay.